Right. Welcome in, everyone, to another deep dive. And I got to say, this time around, the material you sent, it's a really cool mix, right? It's like we're getting this real sense of like wanting to understand not just yourself, but like the world around you too. So what we're going to do is we're going to break it all down, get rid of the noise, and make sure you walk away with like a crystal clear picture of what really matters in all of this.
Yeah, you've gathered a pretty fascinating set of sources here. Like, we've got this very direct, almost, assertive way of handling negativity, and then on the other hand, we have this really sincere, almost vulnerable message from a child who's deeply concerned about the environment. It's this contrast, from song lyrics to really heartfelt personal messages. It's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, and that's what we're here for, right? To like explore these different angles, see how they maybe connect, maybe clash, and ultimately, make sense of it all. So, you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about this whole thing with negativity and envy. I mean, some of these sources, they just don't hold back, do they?
No, they really don't. And it's interesting, right? Like it's this very assertive, almost confrontational approach to dealing with these feelings.
Yeah, totally. Like in the song lyrics, I smell WMA and I smell haters. It's just so upfront. It's like, bam, I smell haters. Just
Hmm.
straight up declaring that they sense this like envy from others.
And that certainty is really striking, isn't it? It's not like, oh, maybe people are envious or I'm worried about people being envious. It's like, no, I smell haters. It's presented as fact.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, boom, this is the reality. Deal with it. And then there's that line, I ain't looking down, but nobody's above me, which, kind of says it all, right?
Right. It's this assertion of their own position like, I'm here, I'm solid, and I'm not looking down on anyone, but don't even try to put yourself above me. It's almost like they're acknowledging that others might be looking up to them with envy.
Totally. And then it gets even more, I don't know, pointed, maybe, with that line, you ain't on my level. I don't even see you. Like, that's just straight up dismissal.
Right. And that's, a very deliberate tactic. It's about minimizing the impact of those they perceive as negative. If they don't even acknowledge them, then their negativity theoretically doesn't hold any weight.
Okay, so that's interesting. It's like, by not even seeing these haters,
Yeah.
they're somehow protecting themselves. But, it seems like some of this negativity might come from like material stuff. Like the lyrics mention things like jeans count my jewelry game and walked up the mall. Them rules on my feet. You can't get this now. It's almost like what they have, it's fueling that envy.
Absolutely. There's this idea that success, especially if it's visible, material success, can attract both admiration and resentment. It's that whole, keeping up with the Joneses thing. Have you ever noticed, I mean, just in your own life, how money and possessions can sometimes trigger these kinds of reactions in people?
Oh yeah, for sure. And then, you've got that line, and if you drown just like I don't give a I mean, that's just harsh, right? But it's also like a total shutdown. Like I don't care what happens to you, even if it's bad.
Right. It's a very forceful way of setting boundaries. It's like your negativity doesn't affect me. And frankly, I don't even care about your well being.
But it's interesting because there's also that line, hatred is contagious, it spread like diseases. So on one hand, they're dismissing the haters, but on the other hand, they're recognizing that negativity is a real thing, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's out there, it's powerful, but I'm somehow immune to it.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, yes, hatred exists, but it can't touch me. It's a very interesting way of like acknowledging the threat while still maintaining that sense of invulnerability.
Now, shifting gears a bit, we also have the stop hating YouTube transcripts.
Hmm.
And that one also takes a very aggressive stance towards negativity.
Yeah, it's really in your face. Right from the start, the first line is, motherfuckers hate me like a fat bitch hot. And that just sets the tone.
It's so confrontational. And just like in the song lyrics, there's that whole theme of not caring. The speaker even says, fuck that, because I really don't give a goddamn. This is constant reinforcement of indifference.
And that's a really powerful psychological tactic, isn't it? By repeating that they don't care, they're trying to like negate the power of that negativity. It's almost like saying, your words have no effect on me.
And then there are those comparisons again, like, your girl is fine, but my girl is finer, and my crew gets higher already in the sky, bro. See us pass you by, bro. It's like they're always trying to prove that they're better than the haters.
It's a way of engaging with the negativity, but on their own terms. Like they're saying, okay, you think I'm bad. Well, I'm actually better than you in these ways. They're almost like throwing it back in haters' faces.
Yeah. And then you've got that line, fuck what you say and foo boy you a lie, bro. which is like the ultimate rejection. They're not even listening to the criticism.
It's complete dismissal. They're not engaging in dialogue. They're shutting it down entirely.
Okay, so you mentioned the word or phrase, I guess, no shine earlier, and it's
Mhm.
used a lot in this transcript. Could you break down how that fits into this whole thing with negativity?
Yeah, so the speaker uses no shine in a few different contexts, wanting to be high dam, see rich dam, and describe their own situation as being without like daddy without no shine. It seems like shine in this context represents success, visibility, maybe even admiration. So when they say no shine after these aggressive dismissals, it's almost like they're pushing back against anyone who wants to see them fail. It's like, you think I have no shine? Well, I don't care about your negativity anyway.
So to sum up all of this with negativity that we see in these sources.
It's about complete rejection. They're asserting their own superiority, expressing indifference to others' opinions, and essentially creating this wall between themselves and the negativity. They're projecting confidence and success to make that hate seem insignificant.
Okay, that's clear. But now, let's shift gears completely, and let's talk about those excerpts from the message transcript. It's a totally different voice and a totally different kind of worry.
It's a huge shift. We go from this really assertive, almost aggressive energy to a child's very honest and heartfelt plea about the environment. It's really striking how different the tone is.
Absolutely. The child talks about animals and plants going instinct every day,
No.
vanishing forever. And it's sad. It's a really direct statement about the loss of biodiversity.
And what gets me is like the genuine fear and sadness in that statement. It's not an abstract concept for this child. It's something real that they're seeing, and it's clearly upsetting them.
And then they talk about their own experiences, saying, I've seen great herds of wild animals, jungles, and rainforests full of birds and butterflies. And then they wonder if, will they even exist for my children to see? It's really powerful.
Yeah, it's not just about the present. They're thinking about the future, about the world their kids will inherit.
And then there's this point about the destruction of natural environments. And the child uses this really clear example. You can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert. I mean, that's such a strong image of how we're damaging the planet.
It's a very simple but powerful statement. It's that realization that some of the damage we're doing is irreversible.
And then there's this call out of adults. The child says, all this is happening before our eyes, and yet we act as if we have all the time we want and all the solutions. Like they're seeing through our inaction.
Yeah. It's a child pointing out this disconnect between the urgency of the problem and our lack of action.
There's also concern about waste. The child says, in my country, you make so much waste. We buy and throw away, buy and throw away. It's a pretty sharp critique of consumerism.
Absolutely. And it shows a global awareness, right? This child isn't just thinking about their own backyard. They're seeing how consumption patterns around the world contribute to the problem.
And maybe the most moving part is the child's idea about redirecting resources. They say, I am only a child, yet I know if all the money spent on war, who spent on finding environmental answers, ending poverty, and finding treaties, but wonderful place this Earth would be, Earth would be, Earth would be. That's such a hopeful vision.
It's really powerful. It's like they're cutting through all the complexity and saying, look, if we just focused on the right things, we can make a real difference.
So if we're like distilling this down, the key takeaway here is this deep concern about the environment, this worry about the future, and this plea for action, right?
Exactly. It's about looking outward, looking beyond yourself, and taking responsibility for the planet.
Okay. So we've got these two really contrasting perspectives. On one hand, it's about like blocking out the negativity and focusing on yourself. And on the other hand, it's about acknowledging the problems of the world and trying to do something about them.
Right. It's about like where you choose to focus your energy. Do you build a wall around yourself or do you try to make a difference in the world?
No, just to quickly touch on the other sources, we had the excerpt from Bad Boy on Death Row. And as we noted, it seems to be more about religious belief. Yeah. And really strong language aimed at non-believers rather than personal envy. Like that line, if not to hell you should go, and hell you should dwell always. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, that one's a bit different. It's about a specific belief system and the consequences of not following it rather than, reacting to personal attacks or envy.
And then there are the Over the Rainbow excerpts, which touch on bigger issues like poverty and war. They express anger and concern, which is, somewhat similar to the child's message, but from a different perspective. What do you think? Do you see any connection between, like, anger about societal problems and a child's worry about the environment?
I think they both stem from a sense of injustice and also like a desire for a better world, whether it's on a personal level or a global level.
And then we have those really short pieces from So Throwed, Try Not to Laugh, and Midnight, which didn't really tell us much about negativity or the environment.
Yeah, those were a bit too short and out of context to really add to the conversation.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, it's really clear that we've got these two very different approaches to negativity. On one hand, we see this like very assertive dismissal, focusing on being better than the haters, and on the other hand, we have this heartfelt plea for action, this concern for the planet.
Hmm.
It's pretty powerful.
It is, and it raises some really important questions like what do we do with negativity? Do we try to use it to fuel positive change?
Yeah, and that's something for you to think about as you move forward. What resonates with you more,
Mm.
and how can these different perspectives shape the way you approach your own challenges, the way you think about the world?
It's a good question to ponder. How can we balance our own well-being with a responsibility to the planet, to the future?
Exactly. So, thank you again for sharing your sources with us, and thank you for being here for another deep dive. We hope you found it insightful, and we look forward to exploring more with you soon.